All
right, guys, we are live.
It's so rotten. It's just going to land on, of course, one of the cars that's paid off.
John, I think he just said we're live. I don't know.
Live? Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Village of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, Friday, May 10th. Again, I'd like to thank LTV Studios for hosting us. We have the minutes of April 12th, 2024. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We have 7 determinations today, and the entire files are available at Village Hall. In the application of Jane Z. Foreman and Edward N. Wolf, 122 Georgia Close Road, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 3017-4-16 for area variance and wetlands permit to allow certain existing accessory improvements and landscaping is granted, except the trampoline-related variance and permit relief, which is denied. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Gabby?
Mr. McGurk?
Yes?
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons?
Yes.
In the application of Susan P. Furlow, 79 Heather Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-5-1-2 for an area variance relief to install, construct, and a generator is granted with conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Gabby, can you pull the board, please?
Mr. McGurk?
Yes?
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons?
Yes.
In the application of Lloyd Macklow, 2022 Trust, Barbara Macklow, 2022 Trust, 6 Borden Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-8-15-3 for an area variance to install a shed containing pool equipment within a required side yard setback is granted. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Gabby, can you pull the board, please?
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons?
Yes.
Okay. In the application of Asia Green LLC, 8 Marina Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-8-10-45 for a modification of the original determination is withdrawn. As for the applicant's request for the extension of time, it is granted. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Gabby?
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons?
Yes.
All right. In the application of 25 Cross Highway LLC, 25 Privet Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-13-4-17 for area variance to legalize a patio located within the front yard setback of the subject property is denied. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Oh, no, Gabby, poll the board, please.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
In the application of Irene Tuzerski and Alex Gorbanski, 44 Dayton Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-2-7-17, as amended for an area variance concerning the maximum allowable gross floor area is granted with conditions. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Gabby, poll the board, please.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons?
Okay, Mr. Mc-
This is the one I didn't sit on, but I reviewed the record and read the minutes, and I'm able to vote
Thank you.
yes.
Okay. In the application of Mark K. Webb, 11 McGurk Street, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1121 for an area variance to legalize existing coverage at the subject property is granted with conditions. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Second. Gabby, can you poll the board?
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on to the hearings for today. We have the first hearing of the day. Gabby?
Application of Lily Lane LP, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-13-13-12 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning and Chapter 124 preservation of dunes and variance and permit from Chapter 101 coastal erosion hazard areas to construct additions onto an existing residence and make alterations to an existing residential cottage building, install a new sanitary system and stormwater dry wells. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variance is required in accordance with section 101-9 to clear vegetation and make alterations to a residential cottage building located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line. Variances are required from sections 278-2B1 and 278-7C2D1 to make alterations to a residential cottage building, and a 66-foot variance is required from section 124-1A2 to make alterations to the residential cottage building that is located 84 feet from the southerly edge of beach grass, where the required setback from the southerly edge of beach grass is 150 feet. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variance is required in accordance with section 101-9 to clear vegetation, construct decks and walkways, construct a 3-story addition, and construct a veranda, all located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line. Variances of 19 feet, 25 feet, and 26.2 feet are required to construct a 3-story addition to the existing residence, a veranda and decks/walkways located 131 feet, 125 feet, and 123.8 feet, respectively, from the southerly edge of the beach grass, where the required setbacks from the southerly edge of beach grass are 150 feet. A 54-foot variance is required to clear land 96 feet from the southerly edge of beach grass where no disturbance or clearing is permitted within 150 feet from the southerly edge of the beach grass. A variance is required from section 278-2B1 to permit an addition to a legally pre-existing 3rd story where the maximum number of stories are 2. The subject property is 140,295 square feet in area and is located at 29 Lily Pond Lane in Resident District R180, FEMA flood zones VE in parentheses EL17 and AE in parentheses EL10, and has frontage on the Atlantic Ocean beach. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Ackerman.
Billy, do you want to say anything before I? Okay. Good morning. Pleasure to see you all. See some new faces. I have here today as witnesses to answer any questions you have. Ben Haverall, who's the architect on the project. Rich Warren is here to answer any questions on environmental. Andrew Bennett, our sanitary engineer who did the construction protocol, is also here to answer any questions. This is a minimal expansion within a CHA zone. On the first floor, we're pushing the kitchen out to the east. There's no GFA issues here. It's only a question of coverage under village policy, and we're well within precedent on that policy. The second floor, we're adding a couple hundred square feet, and on the third floor, which is pre-existing non-conforming, we're adding 8 feet. There's substantial mitigation here by putting in a new sanitary system, which otherwise wouldn't be required. We're eliminating a cesspool that's on the village property. We're also removing a pole that's on our property that services cable, which the village has been after for some time to get off as an encroachment there. We are seeking variances with respect to CHA, as you know, also with respect to beach grass and expanding minimal coverage. In the file, you'll find neighbor consents and support for this application. We'd like to answer any questions you may have from the board.
Any questions on this from the board? I would just like maybe Drew to go over some of the protocol for the
Absolutely, sure. Drew.
construction protocol.
Good morning, Drew Bennett, consulting engineer here on behalf of the applicant.
I could be sworn in, Drew. Sorry.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Drew Bennett, doing business at 74 Montauk Highway, Suite 21, East Hampton, New York.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone. So I've worked with the team to put together a narrative to describe the construction of this particular project. And so I'll sort of start from the beginning and work our way in. So the property is located on the end of a long flag strip, and we are proposing not to allow parking on the flag strip that comes off of Lily Pond Lane, nor the driveway that comes off of Ocean Avenue. There is an entry gate at the property line at the southern end of the flag strip. That gate will be taken off to protect it, and there's some tree limbs there that will be pruned back to allow construction vehicles in and trash removal, etc. We've identified 4 parking spaces for construction vehicles on existing pavement, 4 in front of the garage, 4 on the driveway that leads out to Ocean Avenue. We anticipate 8 to 20 workers on this particular project. I should point out that the work is planned to be performed off-season, and we anticipate that the 8 parking spaces that we've allotted is adequate most of the time, but there are surges where we might have up to 20 people working, and the contractor will make arrangements with the village to hopefully be able to park in overflow parking in the main beach parking area, probably Lot B. We propose to install a project limiting fence consisting of snow fence around the perimeter of the work area. We also understand the concern about disturbance to the dune, so the foundation excavation will be controlled with steel sheeting will be driven around the excavation. It's a relatively small addition that will control the creep of any excavation. It'll be a very constrained area. And of course, that's within the project limiting fence. The foundation itself will be friction piles with a poured concrete foundation on top of that to conform with FEMA. And we've elected to use helical piles rather than timber piles as the friction piles, which are quieter and have been demonstrated to work quite well in this particular area, particularly post-Sandy. There's a lot of experience with helical piles, and so they are less disruptive to the dune and they're less disruptive to the neighbors. We've also allotted areas for the dumpster and material lay down and so on and so forth. So it's a tight site. There won't be a construction trailer. It's not that large of a job, and there's an existing garage that they can work out of. So tight footprint, but we have space for everything that we need to do for the construction. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I just had one question.
Sure.
How long does the pile driving take with the helical piles? Is it 2 months? Is it a week?
Considering the size of the excavation, I would estimate it's probably a week's worth of work.
Okay.
7 to 10 days, probably, yeah.
Are you making any provisions for a hose down of the trucks that are dirty when they pull out of the construction site?
We aren't. We typically use large aggregate to knock mud off of the truck tires. I will say that the site is so constrained by the snow fence that there will be very little traffic off of the existing asphalt. Like the area for the foundation is very sandy, and it's literally right off of the edge of the driveway. So it's a pretty small project, actually. So
Thanks, Drew.
thank you.
Billy, you have any comments? Can I just have Billy up, Mr. Ackerman?
Oh, sure. I'm just going to get my stuff off here.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Billy Hayjack for the Village of East Hampton. I don't have a substantial amount of information to offer, other than I would just opine that the house currently sits essentially on top of the dune, or at the dune crest. The area of the property that is seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line is very well vegetated. I think the property owner has done a good job at maintaining the native dunescape. There's very little landscaping or lawn area, so they should be commended for that. And the removal of the utility pole that currently exists, I think, is an aesthetic benefit that's lended to the project as well, because that, this utility pole sitting on top of the dune, removal of that is going to be beneficial for the village. And I appreciate their cooperation in making some adjustments to the construction protocol. Other than that, I don't have any other comments other than also the increase. I've advised the board or suggested to the board that, following the DEC's standards for expansion of pre-existing structures within the coastal erosion hazard area zone, we've strived to limit them to 25%. In this case, the cumulative expansion of structures is basically 11%, and there is no seaward migration of improvements. The proposed decking replaced patios that presently exist. They're actually being pulled back by a foot or two, so nothing is protruding closer to the beach. So other than that,
Okay.
if you have any specific questions for me, I'm trying to answer them.
Board members? All right,
Great.
thanks, Billy.
Thank you.
Any other, would anybody else like to speak on this in the audience? Okay.
Motion to
Motion to
close?
close the hearing?
I make a motion to close?
Good, thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Gabby?
Application of Trom House 1 LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-15-5-11.1. Trom House 2 LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-15-5-10. And the Incorporated Village of East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-15-5-12.1 for variances from Chapter 101, Coastal Erosion Hazard Areas, Chapter 278, Zoning, and Chapter 124, Preservation of Dunes, to remove vegetation and to reconstruct an existing stone revetment. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variances are requested in accordance with Sections 101-9, 101-11, and 101-12 to reconstruct approximately 420 linear feet of stone revetment located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line. Variances are required from Section 124-1A, 1 and 2, and Section 278-3A7 to remove vegetation and to reconstruct approximately 420 linear feet of stone revetment located seaward of the 15-foot contour line and partially seaward of the southerly edge of beach grass, where no structures are permitted within 100 feet of the 15-foot contour line and no disturbance is permitted within 150 feet from the southerly edge of the beach grass. Trom House 1 LLC is approximately 6.8 acres in size and located at 75 West End Road. Trom House 2 LLC is approximately 2 acres in size and is located at 69 West End Road. The Village of East Hampton property is approximately 0.63 acres in size and is located at 79 West End Road. All of the subject properties are located in Resident District R160, adjoin the Ocean Beach, and are located in FEMA flood zones VEL 19, Zone VEL 17, and Zone AEL 10. The project requires approval of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the town trustees. This project is classified as an unlisted action in accordance with SECRA.
Is the applicant present?
Morning.
How are you?
So, Gabby, can you swear Richard?
Yes. Sorry. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Richard Warren, InterScience Research Associates, 36 Nugent Street, Southampton, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of the applicants for the repair and replacement of an existing revetment. I have some boards that I just thought would be helpful to show. So there, as you heard, there's 3 applicants with respect to this. Tram House 1, which is 75 West End Road, which is the yellow parcel that you'll see on this drawing. Tram House 2, which is in a commonality of ownership, is the purple parcel, and the green parcel is the Village of East Hampton's access that they have that extends from West End Road down to the beach. We have received signatures from the mayor consenting to allow this to move forward. These properties are in a relatively unique section of the beach frontage within the village of East Hampton. It's the only area east of Shinnecock Inlet that has groins and jetties that extend out into the Atlantic Ocean. You can see the 3 groins, and you can see that these properties are immediately west of the center groin that's there. The narrow intervening area that's between the property of 75 and 85 West End Road, that's owned by the village, provides access from West End Road for the public to get down. These properties there's a revetment. Can I move this?
Yep.
This legal?
I don't know.
So there's a revetment that currently exists that extends from this corner here all the way down through here and onto 85 West End Road. It's one uniform structure. We've gone back to actually get some information relative to it, and these are the plans when this revetment was actually constructed. These came from DEC records, and it was constructed in 1993, about 31 years ago. You can see the village parcel, which is this strip here, 75. You can just see there's a little tail of a return here that is on the easterly property. And then you can see on 85, it extends down through there, and there's a return on 85. The work that's been shown on the plans that we've submitted have been prepared by Steve Maresca, a structural engineer in Southampton, along with Lee Wisher from the Woods Hole Group. And he's a coastal expert and also a coastal engineer. When the client purchased the property, there was some concern about understanding whether or not the revetment was in sufficient shape in order to protect the property. As you've seen from the surveys that were submitted, the house is close to the crest of the dune on this piece of property. And we understand from the records that the revetment on 85 West End Road, the western section, had been the top of the revetment had been reconstructed because of some settling of the stone that had occurred here. Because of the position of this structure relative to the jetties that extend out, this revetment remains largely under sand. And there are periods when it does become exposed, and we happen to be there after Sandy. I have copies of all these to submit to you. So this is the revetment after Sandy. This is January 2013, and it's one of the few times when it was actually exposed. And you can see from the top of the revetment, the top is collapsed back. The revetment got overwashed, and the top of the revetment has collapsed back, and the elevation is lower. You can see the level of the beach, and then the top of this is collapsed back, and the exposed dune bluff that's behind it.
Excuse me, is this 85 or is this?
This is 2013.
No. The address.
No, this is 75.
75. Okay, great.
Yes, this is the applicants. So 80, if you're probably familiar with 85, because we've been before the village a number of times over the years, that we come in and we get permits to cover the dune, the revetment with sand and replant. That happens almost every year. They're a little bit further west in this gap between the two jetties. This one doesn't get exposed as much because it's protected a little bit by the groin that's there. The erosional impact is really from east to west. But it does get exposed during serious times. So in order to have an understanding about what the condition was of it at present, we had a site inspection that was done with village representatives. We got approval from the building department, and they went down, they did some test excavations on the current property. Didn't look like this at the time, it was buried, because after this happened, they covered it with sand, and it stayed largely covered with sand, but the condition is like this underneath. So there was an excavation that was done with Steve Maresca and Dr. Lee Wisher and representatives of the village, and they did 5 separate test strips down to see what the condition was at that time. And Dr. Wisher found that the existing revetment is not an engineered structure. It's starting to pull apart. The rocks are separating. And so that during serious storms, when it becomes exposed like this, it won't provide the same level of protection that the revetment is supposed to provide. So they developed a plan that you have as part of the application in order to restore the revetment back to its existing state. When it was exposed, we had the surveyor locate the top elevations, bottom elevations, and the actual position of it, so it would be reconstructed in its current location. So that's actually what the application is for. As part of it, since it's on village property as well, this applicant intends to reconstruct it at his cost on the village property. And in doing so, there'll be the design of it, they've designed it so on the village parcel, which is an access, the stones will be leveled in a way to create some stone steps. Should it ever become exposed, people will still be able to get up and down from the beach that's there. We've provided you with all of the plans that are for this. You've got several reports from Lee Wisher, which was a summary of the observation that was done when they did the excavations, and then a construction methodology, and then an assessment of the potential impacts of this. It remains largely buried, but when it's needed, it's like conditions like this. When you have some serious storm, with the expected increase in frequency in storms that everyone's predicting, it's probably something that would make sense for this owner to have repaired. So he's moving ahead to try to have this repaired. It'll be essentially the same basic footprint, 423 linear feet, occupy the same area that's there. It will be located no further seaward than the existing revetment. The rock from the existing revetment would be reused as much as practically possible. It will include the placement of stone to create steps, as I said, on the village property. It's going to tie into the end of the revetment on 85 West End Road. So it's been designed so this way those two will marry back into the same structure. And there's always a concern about shore hardening structures and what it does to neighboring properties. Well, with the erosion happening from east to west, if this is not repaired, the revetment that's on 85 could get flanked. Because as this collapses down, that end of the revetment, if this end of the revetment at 85 would be over in that location further to the west. As this drops down, if this were to happen behind it, then that revetment could actually collapse down too. So this is a logical repair and improvement to it. The plan is to only do 50 feet at a time. So this way, at no time would this property ever become exposed. So there's a limited window of time when you can do this. You can't do it during the summer because obviously people are on the beach, and also there's limitations for piping blowers and least turns. So that takes out between April 1 and August 31st. And you're not about to start this work in August 31st because that's hurricane season. So the actual logical window for doing this is probably sometime mid-November to probably February 1st, maybe mid-January. So that the timing for this is that's the intended time to do this.
Will you be able to do the project in one winter? Or
yes, yes, one winter. The plan is doing one winter. We've been working with Pat Bistrian in terms of scheduling it. The last time revetment work was done, there was an arrangement to use the village beach access to get down and store equipment. This is at the Appoquog Beach, Appoquog Road. We did a very similar project to this, which we got approval from the village for at 199 Lily Pond Lane, where they rebuilt the revetment. Had the same kind of problem, overtopped, collapsed back. It's now been reconstructed, and it's buried underneath the dune right now. They figure it's 12 to 16 weeks to construct. So we've provided you with some substantial documentation that addresses the standards for the coastal erosion permit as well as the protection dune permit. I don't know if you want me to go through that or not.
I think we read it.
It's all in writing. I see you've got a pretty long agenda here, so.
Did you talk to the town trustees on this?
Town trustees, yes, we've been to the town trustees, and they are ready to approve it. There's an application pending before them. They're ready to approve it. They want to be the last ones. So.
Okay. Any questions? Motion.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
one question. It sounds like this is one revetment. 3 owners are here today, but the single revetment
Yes.
there's another owner that is part of the same structure?
Yeah, this 85 West End Road has the revetment. Let's go back to the first one. The 85 West End Road is this parcel here. So that would be right here. You can just barely see it in this particular aerial photograph. It's right there. It ends just beyond the house. And then this is Georgeville, the flow into Georgeville.
And was the owner of 85 West End approached for this project, or?
They're aware of it. We actually do work for 85 as well. So they're aware of this project. We've talked with them, and they actually encouraged that this be.
Yeah. I guess I'm just wondering why you treat it in different sections and why you don't treat the entire revetment at one time.
Their revetment does not need to be replaced because they actually did work to it some years ago. So they actually improved it when the back collapsed. The former owner of this property back at the time never did anything when this happened. So now we're just bringing it up so the entire structure will be uniform.
Okay.
Any other questions? Motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
I have a
Second.
picture of this.
Thank you. We have these stuff. Oh, hold on. Motion not to close the hearing. We didn't do this. Go ahead.
I just have, Billy Hayjack for the Village of East Hampton. I'd be very quick. I just have a couple of recommended conditions to the approval, if the board is willing to grant approval for this. I was at the site when they conducted their test excavations, and the surveyor obtained the toe of the toe of the revetment and the peak or the ridge of the revetment, so that it's appreciated. And we want to make sure that there's no landward or seaward rather migration of the structure. And I have communicated with the potential contractor, Patrick Bistrian, but we don't know so my bottom line is what I'd like to ask the board to consider is requiring a pre-construction site meeting, with village officials and the contractor who actually performs the work prior to commencement, so that everybody is aware what the constraints are, what the work requirements are, the protocols are in place, the knowledge of the permits, because while it's anticipated that Patrick Bistrian is going to be the contractor, if something should change between now and then, we want to make sure that the contractor is well aware of what all the limitations are, and also that the Department of Public Works is aware of the access route and the storage of materials. Then 48 hours prior to start of work, we would ask to be notified so that we're well aware when the actual work is going to occur. And just a bit of background really quickly, the Keck parcel, which is about 50 feet wide, when as Mr. Warren indicated, when the revetments were constructed in the early 90s, the village actually had requested that the applicant at the time build the revetment on the Keck parcel, because you didn't want to create a gap. Like, the last thing you want is a 50-foot wide gap between two revetments. So there is an agreement that when work occurs to the revetment, that they're required to do the work to the village revetment as well. And my understanding is that the town trustees are going to require, or as a condition of their approval, that if the revetment becomes uncovered, that there be a mechanism in place to mandate the recovering of it with sand and revegetation. And I think it's be appropriate for the village to require the same, to have the same requirement.
I think we have a requirement down the beach.
Yes.
On another revetment like that.
So those are my comments. If you have questions,
I got one question. So since the revetment dropped or collapsed, as the word was used, do we know what the previous height was so that we don't go above that, or are we going to the collapsed height?
No, I believe it's, I don't know, Rich?
No, we're actually going to increase it back to the original height. So it matches what's at 85 West End Road. So actually those rocks fell backwards. It's a weight supported structure.
So you have that elevation
Yes,
number
yes.
from the previous
previous plans, yes.
Okay.
And we agree with everything that Billy's just said. So we have no issues with any of that.
We have it in the minutes, and
So
okay, we can build that into the determination. Okay. Anyone else like to speak on this in the audience? Okay, motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm recusing myself from this application.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Application of West End Partners 2 LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1556 for a permit and area variance from Chapter 101 Coastal Erosion Hazard Areas, variances from Chapter 278 Zoning, and a wetlands permit in accordance with Chapter 163 Freshwater Wetlands to legalize the reconstruction of an existing residence, construct a swimming pool, generator, construct patios and retaining walls, a parking area, and install landscaping. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variance is required in accordance with Section 101-9 to legalize the reconstruction of a residence with modifications that is located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line, and to reconstruct with modifications a swimming pool, generator, sanitary system, multiple patios, and retaining walls, all located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line. Variances of 7.7 feet and 8.6 feet are required from Section 278-3A-4A to reconstruct a residence located 26.3 feet and 25.4 feet from the side yard lot lines where the required side yard setbacks are 34 feet. Variances of approximately 12.8 feet are required from Section 278-3A-5B to construct 4 AC condenser units located approximately 7.2 feet from a side yard lot line where the required side yard setbacks are 20 feet. A 19.9-foot variance is required from Section 278-3A-5B to construct a patio and stairway 0.1 feet from a side yard lot line where the required side yard setbacks are 20 feet. A 10.2-foot variance is required from Section 278-3A-5C to reconstruct a swimming pool 29.8 feet from a side yard lot line where the required side yard setback is 40 feet. A wetlands permit is required in accordance with Sections 163-3 and 163-7 and variances of 50 feet from Section 278-3A-8 to construct a parking area, walkways, and retaining walls, the nearest of which is 100 feet from wetlands where the required wetland setback is 150 feet, and a 34-foot variance to clear land in landscape 91 feet from wetlands where the minimum required setback for clearing and landscaping activities is 125 feet. The subject property is 63,915 square feet in area and is located at 51 West End Road in Residence District R160. The property adjoins the ocean beach and is located in FEMA flood zones VE and zone AE. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Good morning, Mr. Akron.
Hi, good morning. I have here the architect from Fleetwood McMullen, Steve Sanabria. Drew could speak to construction protocol if you have any questions, and Rich Warren is here to answer any questions on environmental. This is a CIA compliance, essentially application. We're going to make the house CIA compliant, and as part of some cleanup, we're going to fix the pool, we're going to do some landscaping. There's been significant mitigation here. We've reduced roof coverage. There are no height variances. A new sanitary system is being installed. The pool, which is in an environmentally sensitive area, is being rehabilitated. Also, the driving and the parking areas that do not have permeable materials are being renovated. And we're, most importantly, in the landscape planning, we're replacing approximately 4,300 square feet of previous non-native grass with native vegetation that's reflected in the landscape plan. I think all those mitigation measures are favorable in this application. If you have any questions, I have the team here ready.
Maybe Steve can go through the construction protocol.
Yeah.
And anybody speak up if you have any questions.
Hello, I'm Steven Sanabria.
Raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Steven Sanabria, 251 Panago Road, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I guess your question is about the construction of the new
Construction protocol and
of the protocol itself, or
you're going to put this obviously on pilings and
Yeah, so what we're proposing to do is, the protocol Drew Bennett can speak on, but the construction methodology, I can answer any questions. So we're proposing to put the house now on a FEMA compliant foundation, which has our pile cap at elevation 17. And we have 2 feet of freeboard. So the top of the pile cap will be at 19. And then we build up from there. Our foundation to do that is a standard 8-inch poured concrete foundation. And then we have a wood frame for the first floor. We're not changing any of the footprint. And that's about it.
And the neighbor to the east, I believe, had concerns with the pitch of the roof?
It was the height of the roof. In working with the council and with the neighbor, we were able to come to an agreement as to the height of the proposed roof. We will be 4.5 inches higher than the existing previous roof, which we have an elevation certificate for. So we will match that, and we will get an elevation certificate to verify that that ridge will be at that height.
Okay.
John, there should be a letter from the neighbor.
Yeah, we have it. Thank you.
So how do we solve for the problem that actually got us here, which was the contractor kind of going off on their own?
So during the course of construction, it was found out that the foundation and the framing had become too deteriorated to kind of keep. And so that kind of led us to the fact that we had to replace it. And it was just not feasible to keep the existing structure, the existing foundation, the existing framing. So we had to repair or replace that foundation. And in doing so, we wanted to make it FEMA compliant as well. We were required to now because of that. So we're changing it all to a FEMA compliant pile cap with helical piles and so on.
I understand that. My concern is you have a contractor who went off program already. How do we solve for this going in the future so we don't have that issue?
We're verifying heights we're going to have the surveyor verify the height of the ridge to make sure that that height is compliant. We're verifying the height of the first floor. So all of that, and we'll be watching over the project.
Let me address you.
You understand my concern?
Of course I do. I recommended to the client that we hire a construction manager who's worked on several very high-level homes on the ocean here. We have an extensive construction protocol. There's going to be a policeman on board here to make sure this gets done right. It's a special way, yep.
And Drew, can you just go over the construction protocol on this real quick? Thank you.
Good morning, Drew Bennett, consulting engineer again on behalf of the applicant. So this construction protocol is very similar.
I just wanted to remind you that you're still under oath.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby.
Deja vu, right? So this is a very similar property that we discussed to the one that we discussed earlier in the morning. The primary difference is that this is a house that's in an existing situation or an existing location, so it's going to be located vertically up. So there is project limiting fence already installed on the property, and the contractor has described a sequence of events on how the work will proceed from here. There is quite a bit of work that needs to be done, both in terms of raising the house, excavating underneath the house for helical piles, which we just mentioned the benefits of those, as well as pouring a new concrete foundation on top of that. So they won't have an opportunity to use steel sheeting underneath the house because the house is directly above it. So they are going to evaluate the need for various types of shoring once the house is up and they can see how stable the soil is. There are a number of methods available, mostly timber type shoring, which is very commonly used in streets basically. So that should be a very manageable situation. Again, parking is on the property. There's no parking on West End Road. Project limiting fence around the perimeter. Are there anything specific that I can answer?
I do have a question. So
Sure.
obviously you're seaward of the Sea Haul line, concerned about the stabilization of the dune and destabilizing it when you lift the house and dig.
Right. So you're familiar with house lifting. So there's basically lift pits that go around the perimeter of the house. That'll be laid out in detail once the house mover is on board. The house mover is Guy Davis, who's highly experienced.
Yeah.
And the lift pits are ranging 4x4, maybe 6x6 at the largest. And they're very close to the house perimeter, so they're not out. I would say they certainly don't extend out more than 8 feet from the existing footprint of the house. And based on where the house is positioned right now, that would not be.
So you anticipate that in conjunction with the shoring underneath, you shouldn't have an issue with?
I'm confident that there won't be an issue.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Billy, any comments? Okay. Anybody in the audience? Okay, motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion?
Second?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Application of David G. and Christina M. Siegel, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 3012628.1 for an area variance from Chapter 278 zoning to construct a single-family residence and entry stoop. An 11.3-foot variance is required from Section 278 3A to construct a residence and entry-covered stoop, the nearest being proposed 18.7 feet from the front yard lot line, where the required front yard setback is 30 feet. The subject property is 10,000 square feet in area and is located at 31 Church Street in Residence District R40. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Good morning. Is the applicant here?
Hi, my name is Thomas Cooper.
Good morning, Thomas.
How are you
Can
doing?
Gabby swear you in?
Sure.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Thomas Cooper, 106 Newtown Lane, East Hampton.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
How are we doing?
Good morning.
So we're proposing to construct a new structure at 31 Church Street. And currently the structure it's about 294 square feet. That's non-conforming. And it's also about 18.2 feet non-conforming on the front yard setback. And we're looking to actually make it more conforming. I think you guys also have some letters from the neighbors, or at least one neighbor that's in favor of the project. We are tearing down the structure that's currently there. We are going to make a new structure, which I believe is in keeping with every village small structure. It's a 2,000 square foot house. The roof lines are low. There's nothing ostentatious about it in any way. It's a very small, quaint little village house that we're building. We're proposing to make it a lot more conforming. Anytime I've seen these boards, I've been before them or I even sat on this board, I've found that some of the criteria really are two big things, right? One is that, is this project in keeping with the village? Is there anything that's going to hurt the village's appeal? And I feel the answer strongly is no. This is a great village house. And the other one is this self-inflicting a little bit? And we misinterpreted the code a little bit when we looked at this. There's a code 278.3 that we read that we felt that's how we built the house. So when we designed the house, we wanted that front entry. We just built it towards that code, and that's what we thought we were doing. We just misinterpreted it, and that's how it kind of happened about. But still, this is the look of the house is what the client really is going for, and I think it matches the rest of the village.
Any questions? Nope. Anybody in the audience like to speak? I'll make a motion to close the hearing. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Application of Christopher Yeager and Phoebe Simmer, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 3012310 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct a pool house. Variances of 15 feet and 16 feet are requested from Section 278 3A 5C to construct a pool house and a cellar Bilco door 5 feet from the rear yard lot line, where 4 feet from the side yard lot line. The required rear and side yard setbacks are 20 feet. The subject property is 10,235 square feet in area and is located at 9 Route 114 in Residence District R40. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Malone. I'm here on behalf of Tarbert and Lester for the applicant.
Please proceed.
Okay.
I believe Samantha's an attorney.
Yes. Okay. As the board knows, this project has been presented twice previously. The first time, the board approved a conversion of the garage into a pool house and its current location and size. The second time, the board denied an application to rebuild in the current location and size. So this time around, the owner is proposing to rebuild the structure 50 square feet smaller as a conforming sized pool house. And the owner is also offering to rebuild the structure in a more conforming location. So we are aware that one neighbor wrote a letter in opposition of this application. We have another letter that another neighbor wrote in support. But what's important for the board to know is that the applicant denies ever using the structure for any use not permitted by the code. Also, if the neighbor in opposition is concerned with the structure being used as habitable space, our position is that if the rebuilt structure is smaller in size, that it's less likely to be used in a non-complying manner. Because the applicant is requesting variances to locate the structure further from the property line and make it smaller, we're not aware of any detriment, and we respectfully request that the board approve the application.
Thank you. Any comments?
Just that they've made it more conforming. Yep.
Okay, and can we have a condition that it gets, if the building inspector can come in once a year? Is that, okay, is that all right? Thank you. Anybody in the audience like to speak? Okay, motion to close the hearing?
Make that motion.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have continued hearings. Trevor?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Here on behalf of Ms. McDonald, 62 Dayton Lane. Hopefully all the members have seen the amended survey/site plan that we had submitted after the last hearing date, where after the hearing, the architect and the applicant were both present and heard the concerns of the board. I think mainly focused on the proposed accessory GFA request, which was to add a new pool house. That request has been removed. So the proposed pool house component of it is struck from the request, and if you see, the proposed pool equipment is now to be shown in the pre-existing non-conforming garage. So we're not looking to increase the accessory GFA at any structure. So the application is amended to be just the principal structure GFA, which the board had indicated in the last date, which I believe was that we are lifting the house and putting it back down. So visually from the street, you won't see the proposed renovation on the rear of the house.
Board members?
I appreciate the applicant listening to our last comments. And from there, I really don't have a problem with this.
Good. Okay, thank you. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this? Okay, motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And we have the continuation of the Hunting Hospitality LLC. Not gonna see you in a minute. Not gonna be able to see you.
All right. Hello, members of the board. My name is Martha Reichert. Timmy Latham, Shea, Kelly, Dubin, and Corderaro, 33 West 2nd Street, Riverhead, New York, for the applicant's Hunting Hospitality LLC. I'm joined here today by my co-counsel, Ed Burke Jr. I also have our historic preservation specialist who authored the construction protocol, Mr. Joel Snodgrass here. And I also have Paige and Blaine Fertitta of Hunting Hospitality LLC, here as well. At the last hearing, the board decided to do site visits, which they did. And one of the comments that came out of that was a desire to see a revised landscaping plan, which incorporated revisions to a prior covenanted landscape plan around the existing parking lot. That decision predates my client's ownership, but one of the things that we can see now is that that planting plan is about 20 years old, the vegetation is mature, and it no longer actually provides the screening that was intended.
Martha, I don't believe we could find the landscaping plan either in the village files.
Yeah, no, we found it. I think it's an old Whitmore's plan. But the point is that the vegetation has grown, it's matured, and so at the street level, it's become pretty sparse, and also because of the shading of all the trees on Hunting Lane, we revised the plan to supplement all along the Hunting Lane parking lot area. And the village planner, Mr. Hayjack, has reviewed it. He provided comments, and so the revised plans that were received last Friday reflect Billy's comments on some plant species, but the end result will be to fill in all along Hunting and to provide greater screening from the street, but also to add some additional vegetation along the other parts of the parking lot perimeter to create sort of a cohesiveness aesthetically with the landscape plan, going then into the vegetative buffer that's part of the transitional yard, that's part of this actual application.
Any comments? No. Okay. Billy, would you like to just tell us on the landscaping plan? Let Billy talk from the
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Billy Hayjack for the village. The original or prior version of the landscape plan relied on, it was a lot of native, they relied heavily on native species, which is good, but it may not have provided the benefit of providing really good screening so to shield the parking area. So my suggestion was to add false holly or osmanthus, which has become a really popular plant, grows very well in shade tolerant areas. It's deer tolerant, and I think it would do a really fine job at what the goal, I think, of the board is to try to really shield or screen the parking area. And so the plan has been revised to that regard, and I think it looks fine. I did review the revised construction protocol as well. That was prepared by Mr. Snodgrass, and I think it addresses the board's prior concerns and my comments. So I have no further,
And I don't know if this is a question for you or Tim, but can we build some kind of maintenance so this doesn't get what it's become now? Some kind of maintenance
I think
program?
you could, the approval, if whatever determination the board renders, could be conditioned upon continually maintaining the screening around the parking lot. So if anything should die off or become too thin, it's required to be replaced to be in keeping with the general spirit of that plan.
Any comments?
Excuse my ignorance because I wasn't here for the previous one, but does the village or the board have a trained arborist that has looked at this vegetation plan on the recommendation list of plants? Do you have an arborist that has signed off on that, looked at it?
No, we have not.
I would probably think that would not be a bad idea because I do a lot of planting myself along Main Street. I live there. And depending on soil, depending on the year, depending on what fungus is running around, it changes from time to time. I like your recommendation for the plants because they have worked for me. But maybe you want to have an arborist look at it, and I would definitely say a condition should be that it's inspected and it's upon them to maintain it on a regular basis. Because plants do die off.
Yeah. That's up to the board.
Thank you. I'd like to add that we have, so the prior planting plan around the parking lot was covenanted by the prior owner, and we are more than happy to covenant to this landscape plan as well. It was designed by a landscape architect, and also we have had a certified arborist on site to advise us on different things. They've reviewed our planting plan, and we're also working in conjunction. That was Mr. Gaines of CW Arborists, which is why now our large elm is undergoing treatment for Dutch elms, and we are also working with Jackson Dodds for that maintenance plan. So I think that if the board wants, does the village even have an arborist on retainer or?
No, we don't. Obviously not.
All right.
If you have a landscape architect, and a lot of them have arborists, if they signed off on it.
Yes,
fine.
this was
You've gone through
our
pH soil analysis, and you've done, which sounds like you have.
correct. The landscape arborist, pardon me, landscape architect reviewed and designed this. We have been working with McLean Associates, but they have an internal landscape architect who designed this plan. And again, they spoke with Billy, and so it's been heavily reviewed, and we will covenant to it.
We don't really want to see the parking area. We want this to not, you can see right underneath it now, it hasn't been maintained. We don't want to see the cars. We want to clean it up. We want this fence to have the sound attenuation in it. It doesn't have it all the way in it. We walked it the other day, you and I, Billy and I. It doesn't. I don't think this side of it has any of this. I think you have styrofoam in there.
That's what the original decision says, but I think that as part of this, right, we'll be using better sound attenuation material for the proposed fence. So if the board would like to see the existing double stockade fence with that styrofoam insert, which is what was required by the original decision, we can certainly.
We want whatever's better, and I don't know what that is.
Sure.
Billy, any comments on that?
Yeah, I'm not a sound expert, I'll caveat that, but my understanding is that the styrofoam material they've kind of shied away from using the styrofoam, and now what they're using is more of a fabric material that comes in a roll. There's an industry, it's a specific brand called LV1 that a lot of people use. It's manufactured locally. We don't have to require the use of the LV1 material, but you can require an equivalent, which has a pretty high value reduction of decibel levels. So you can, styrofoam is not really the way to go anymore, but 20 years ago, that's what they were using.
I just want to add to that because we have similar conditions on our construction sites. Styrofoam's completely out. It just disintegrates and goes away. The felt is a great solution, and often what we've done is we've combined you can only disperse for sound so much because it's open, right? It's dispersing the sound waves. And a combination of that with vegetation works very well. Aesthetically also, there should be a required component of when this is visible to combine it with the right vegetation. And then you have a reduction in the sound impact, but you also have a reduction in the visual impact because no matter what you do with these fences are not pretty. But the felt's definitely the way to go. It's not the styrofoam.
Well, with the double row fencing and the material sandwiched in between and the planting plan that they've submitted, I think it's going to do a pretty good job at mitigating.
Thank you. Yep. Anyone in the audience you done, Martha? Or?
I'm done, but I would like to give the opportunity for Paige and Blaine Fertitta to just come up and introduce themselves to the board.
Hi, everyone. I'm Blaine.
I'm Paige Fertitta. Good morning.
I'll just sort of.
Oh,
sorry. I guess I'll have one of you say your names and then the other in a row. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Paige Fertitta.
Blaine Fertitta. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning. As you'll see and hear in my voice, I am terrible at standing up and speaking to people, even if it's 7 people. I avoid it at all costs, but this property, the Hunting Inn, is important to us as a family. I know we are a big, large casino, restaurant, hotel company. This property we saw in the beginning as a little gift, a little gem that came when we purchased the Palm. Since then, Blaine and I have spent countless hours, trips up here. We've gotten to know the community. The Hunting Inn itself is special. We care about it. We care about the community, its home, its history, and its neighbors, which is why we hope we can all come to terms with, we are in here for the long haul. We want to protect it, preserve it, its history, its character, its guests, and again, its neighbors and community. I understand the concerns. We all do. And hopefully with Martha's help, Eddie's help, and your help, everybody that's gotten involved in this project with us, we can do what's right by the Hunting Inn. We have, as you can imagine, with historical and old property, it's been a can of worms that every time we turn around, we're ready to address it. It's had countless years of neglect that we've learned about since we've gotten involved, and we continue at this moment to make it as good a property as it can be, preserve its integrity, and see it be something that the entire community and its neighbors can enjoy and be proud of. Hopefully we are an addition to the community, and we see our
Good addition.
a great addition to all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You did well.
Thank you.
Any other neighbors like to speak?
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Brent Feigenbaum at 102 Main Street, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good afternoon, Brett.
Good afternoon. And thank you. I'm reading something from Frank Morgan, my partner. He couldn't be here today, but he asked me to read this. So thank you for the opportunity to speak again on the issue of the proposed hot tub and swimming pool at the Hunting Inn. To state the obvious, as the immediate adjacent neighbors and those most affected by this proposal, we remain opposed to the application for a hot tub and pool. Our objection is based on the threat it poses to our quiet enjoyment of our residents. In addition, we would hope that the board will listen to the many neighbors and community members who have written to object to this proposal. I doubt that any other application has received such widespread opposition. At the outset, I simply do not understand the basis to approve this request. The inn and swimming pool hot tub would not be permitted to be built today or operated on this site under the current rules. Obviously, the inn exists and is permitted as a non-conforming use, but the swimming pool and hot tub are not pre-existing. Why in the world would you permit an addition of a pool and a hot tub now if they would not be permitted under current rules? I simply do not understand the logic here. We are particularly distressed that there seems to be a double standard here. When we took on the project of restoring 102 Main Street, we were aware of the restrictions that would apply. We undertook it, and by way of example, one of the issues was windows. The shutters were rotten, many of them, and there was no replacements available. We didn't run to Home Depot for the replacements. We had to have custom-made the shutters to keep with the appearance of the house. When the contractor said the house had no insulation and we would have to take off the outside shingles and replace them with new ones, we said no. We knew that many of the original and century-old shingles were on the house, so we did not remove them. When it came to the windows, we needed to replace some of the windows. Bob Hefner said that it would not be acceptable to use Anderson or Marvin windows as the mullions were too wide. He pointed us to a Vermont craftsman at 3 times the cost. That was 52 windows we had replaced. We installed them at considerable cost. And I know that now that the Hunting Inn is recently replacing windows, and the contractor confirmed that they're Marvin windows that they're being used. So there's been sort of two sides. We're not sure why the inn doesn't have to follow the same rules that everybody else has to follow in the neighborhood. Although we had swimming pools at our prior homes in East Hampton, we decided a pool on historic Main Street, even at the rear of our house, was not in keeping with the historic home. In short, we have played by the rules, and we are sorry to see that our neighbor does not plan to do so. We believe everyone should be treated equally. The inn has revised its application several times in an attempt to appear reasonable. We are all aware of the tactic of asking for the moon and knowing you won't get it. Did anyone ever think 9 cabanas on the side lawn of the inn facing Main Street would be approved? We should not be fooled by this device. The central issue of the pool and hot tub remain the most certain potential for noise and other disturbances. A comment at the last hearing was that the effect that a pool is a common amenity at a hotel. We can all agree to that. However, that really is not the test here. The question is whether a pool is a natural addition to the historic country inn in the village of East Hampton. It is not. The out-of-state owners of the Hunting Inn were well aware of the restrictions that applied to the inn when they bought it. There could be no expectation that they would receive relief from those restrictions. Indeed, the historic designations and other restrictions would point to the fact that exceptions would not be made. Furthermore, an already overbuilt property should not be extended further. There is no imperative to grant the permission requested. One of the many reasons cited against the proposal is the precedent it will set for other inns and B&Bs along Main Street. There is no doubt that these other establishments are watching this application with interest. The applicant has frequently cited the Baker House as a reason for their application should be approved. Although the pool was approved decades ago and under different rules, it is completely invisible from Main Street. If this application is approved, I am not sure how the board could turn down future pool requests from other inns and B&Bs. It seems this would then have commercial pools up and down Main Street, which would clearly change the nature of the village, our neighborhood, and the enjoyment of the residents. If one views this as a balancing of interests, the equities are clear. On the one hand, we have a non-conforming, overbuilt commercial establishment in several historic residential districts that has survived very well without a pool and hot tub. Their request is simply a nice thing to have, but it is no way essential. On the other hand, there are more than 50 neighbors and concerned citizens who oppose it. In particular, you have a neighbor most affected opposing it and asking that you protect the quiet enjoyment of our residential property. On that scale, the concerns of the neighbors should clearly outweigh the desire of the inn. We simply want the quiet enjoyment of our property, which we bargained for and which is promised to us in the village comprehensive plan. We are looking for this board to ensure that we have that right. Thank you. And I think the landscaping you've done is wonderful. The improvements they've made has been phenomenal. It's really beautiful. But
you're addressing the board, or you're addressing?
No, I just want to say that I think they have done a tremendous job with the landscaping so far and the improvements to the property. But it's just the pool is the issue. So thank you.
Good morning, I guess at this point.
Do you need to swear me in?
Yes.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Matthew Grinnell, 35 Hunting Lane.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm a full-time resident of the village at 35 Hunting Lane, have owned a house in the village for over 20 years and have experience of living next to an inn for all of that time. The first house that we owned was 9 Mill Hill Lane, which is immediately adjacent to what used to be called the Maidstone Arms, and in fact shares a gate with the property. And many years ago, when we first bought the house and first few years that we were there, it was great to be a neighbor of the inn, and we were there frequently. However, ownership changed, and our experience changed dramatically and for the worse. The new owner ignored village laws and regulations repeatedly, aggressively, so much so that we were calling the police so frequently my wife became on a first-name basis with Captain Mike Tracy. The village ultimately sued the new owners. We joined that suit, and eventually we gave up. It was so unpleasant that we sold the house. And fortunately, we sold it to the new owner of the inn. And we were grateful that she did buy the house because we weren't sure that anybody else would do so, given the experience that we were going through. That's a horrible fact pattern. And in fact, it continued because after we sold the house, another immediate neighbor called us and said, gee, how did you get that person to buy your house? Could you convince them to buy our house? And I'm not sure that took place. The new owner eventually bought a third house. That fact pattern is terrible. And I worry that in granting this application, you're setting up a neighbor for a terrible experience like that or other neighbors like that, and I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody else. I'm also not very good at standing up and speaking in front of people, so bear with me. I think the board is rightly concerned with some activity that may be happening at another end, at the hedges. And given some of the concern that's been expressed about that activity, I would ask that you show the same concern for the neighbors of the Hunting Inn. With respect to Hunting Lane itself, you're all aware that there's already too much traffic, too much chaos, and too much risk right at the inn itself and at that intersection, particularly during the summer. The Jitney and the Ambassador are great, but as you're all aware, notwithstanding the parking signs that prohibit parking on Hunting Lane, people continuously park on Hunting Lane. They park on Main Street, and I think, candidly, it's quite dangerous. If you are going to grant this, you're only going to make the inn, which is a wonderful property, that much more attractive, that much more compelling, and drive that much more traffic there at precisely the wrong time of year. July and August, as we all know, have too much traffic as it is, particularly right there. It's just going to become worse. So I think what would be interesting is if the new owners really want to become part of the community, they might consider what can they do off season? What can they do to change that dynamic and really not only improve their own business, but make the village the year-round experience that we're all hoping it becomes? Many of you have done great work to improve that, but think about ways that they might do that. Could you have a teacher's happy hour every Friday in January, February, March? Could you reconfigure the area behind the bar, kind of to the right of the entrance there, so that you could host banquets for high school athletic teams? What could you do to really improve things for the community? I'm sure other folks would have other ideas, but I think you get the picture. I want the inn to be successful. I'm a regular patron of the inn. I enjoy going there. I'm happy also with the landscaping that they've done. It's been successful really since it was built. There's no reason it can't continue to be successful, but it's never had a pool. It doesn't need one to be successful. It's not permitted. And to allow this to go ahead would be detrimental to the neighbors. I think it would be detrimental to the village. It would be detrimental to the long-term vision that I think many of us share about how to change and improve the village. So thank you for your time. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Matthew. Joan? Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Joan Denny, 24 Hunting Lane.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. I'm the messenger again. Okay.
We're going to listen.
Good morning, Chairman McGurk and members of the board. I'd like to read a speech on behalf of Lisa Dorch, as she could not be here today due to scheduling conflicts. Chairman McGurk and members of the board, thank you for allowing Joan Denny to speak on my behalf today. I was here for last month's scheduled and canceled meeting on this matter, but have commitments that I could not change this month. My apologies. I'm speaking today on behalf of many residents who simply do not understand your process as a board and are bewildered by certain board member comments regarding this variance application and the continued consideration of potentially granting an application that is in opposition to our village code. With all due respect, and I mean that sincerely, we're wondering what aspects of the village code you are being guarded by in your ongoing considering of a pool and spa at the Hunting Inn. Given this ongoing consideration, I have no choice but to reiterate the ongoing consideration. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, reiterate the code as it relates to your governance of this matter. Section 278.7C variances, Section 2 area variances. In A, it states, in making its determination, the Board of Appeals shall take into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance is granted. Question, what is the benefit to the applicant? Other than the ADA aspects of their application, you have not been provided with any need for, proof of need, or subsequent benefit tied to the addition of pool and spa. The inn is thriving. It has existed as an inn since 1875. Since that time, it has been bought and sold several times as a viable business. What is their need for a pool and spa? Where is the proof of that need? Section A of 282.7C goes on to say, the Board of Appeals shall take into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance is granted, as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. It is clear that the granting of this variance will have a detrimental impact on the surrounding residential neighborhood, as all of the neighbors have expressed to you. Why is that not clear to this board? The paragraph continues and states, in making such determination, the Board of Appeals shall also consider, 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by grant of the area variance. Certainly, the sounds and light from a pool and hot tub will change the character of the neighborhood and be a detriment to nearby properties as well as to historic districts. I think you need to ask yourselves if you would want these additions to a commercial structure next to your home. The paragraph continues and states, in making such determination, the Board of Appeals shall also consider, 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. The actual dimensions involved may not be substantial, though greater than they should be, but changing an antique inn located in 2 historic districts to a venue with resort-like components is indeed substantial. The paragraph further states, in making such determination, the Board of Appeals shall also consider, number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Of course, this variance will have an adverse effect and impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood and 2 historic districts. Antique inns in the village of East Hampton, albeit one, do not have pools or hot tubs. The paragraph further states, in making such determination, the Board of Appeals shall also consider, number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals. Of course, the alleged difficulty was self-created. The Landry Group bought the property with full awareness of its classification as a pre-existing non-conforming property in 2 historic districts. In fact, they have advertised it as such in their website. Section 2B of this same section 278.7 states, the Board of Appeals, in the granting of area variances, shall grant the minimum variance that it shall deem necessary and adequate, and at the same time preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. There's that community reference again. It's mentioned again because those who wrote the code wanted you to care about the community in your decision-making, so they repeat it over and over and over again. I think we all know the minimum variance in this case would be the allowance of the ADA compliant improvements. To suggest otherwise is disingenuous. Section 2D of the same section states, additional provisions related to applications for the extension, expansion, or alteration of a non-conforming use or the buildings of structures related to a non-conforming use. A pool is a structure, so what I'm about to read also applies. Finally, and most importantly, more important than all of the rest of our code as it relates to this particular variance, the code states in number 3 of this section, D, no variance, I repeat, no variance shall be granted to permit the introduction of any outdoor use, including outdoor dining, to a pre-existing non-conforming commercial use in a residential district, or to permit the expansion or extension of any such outdoor use. Subsequently, there can be no way a pool or spa, both of which introduce and or expand outdoor use, to this pre-existing non-conforming commercial use located in a residential district can be permitted by this board if the board is ruling in accordance with our village code. I want to make it very clear that all I have stated herein exists in the code under area variance, not use variance. And the board has indicated this is an area variance. Given the village code, many are respectfully asking, how can the pool and spa aspects of this variance still be under consideration by this board? We would greatly appreciate an answer. If we can't rely upon our village code and zoning board to protect our rights in a community zoned with the intention of protecting, among other things, the value of our property, why do we have a zoning board at all? And why would any homeowner invest the amount of money required to live in the village of East Hampton? I thank you for your time today. That's Lisa.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
Please. You're still under oath.
I just want to tell you, notwithstanding the experience that we had living next to the Maidstone Arms, we sold the house, and for about a year we didn't own a house, and we looked from Montauk to Southampton to find another house because we love the East End. And after lots of looking in neighborhoods and at specific houses, we chose to go back into this beautiful village of East Hampton. We chose very specifically to come back here and buy a home here that we love. We chose it not least because it's beautiful and wonderful and a great place to live and own a home, but because of the protections afforded by this board and the other boards and the other governance structures in the village that are different and are unique and are special to this village. It'd be incredibly disappointing to have chosen specifically to be in the village, specifically to be in the Hunting Lane Historic District, which has additional protections on top of those from the village and from the town. And I would also note that we put the house, before we sold it, we worked with Mr. Hefner to put it into the Main Street Historic District because we care for the village and it wasn't previously in, and because we wanted to contribute to the village. So please maintain those protections and evidence them to other people who will come and invest time and money in the village, as Joan just said. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Martha?
Thank you. Martha Reichert again for the applicant. I think that, you know, one of the things throughout this process, right, and we've been at these hearings now for several years, is that I do believe this application has been reviewed and changed and altered, all in response to the neighbors' concerns, and also how to make this as conforming as possible, to make those variances the least amount possible. And if you look at what was originally submitted, we needed multiple transitional yard variances and coverage variances. Through this review process, we only now need a coverage variance. All of the improvements, including the swimming pool and its associated patio, meet the transitional yard setbacks. They are conforming with respect to the setbacks, which are intentionally designed to protect a neighbor's quality of life in terms of light, air, noise, etc. And the pool itself is comparable, if not smaller, than almost all of the other pools in the neighborhood. And in fact, every single historic residence in the Hunting Lane Historic District is improved with a swimming pool. If this were to be a residence again, it would have none of the sort of protective features that this application will bring to this particular swimming pool, which again are all designed to address neighbor concerns, right? We meet the 50-foot transitional yard setback. We have augmented the vegetative buffer that is required from 20 feet to 50 feet wide. We are adding sound attenuating fencing. We have covenanted the hours of operation. The pool will be covered. It will not have outdoor illumination. And because that pool area is closed in the evening, right, that addresses some of the concerns that we've heard from the neighbors of how can this be enforced, right? And I think the fact that the pool will have a retractable cover when it closes for its hours of operation, and including the spa, is meant to really take that head on. And again, we've covenanted to it, and we want to be, again, good stewards of the inn and also good neighbors. You know, in looking at the variance standards, very early on in this application, we addressed I'll backtrack a little bit. We addressed that aspect of the village code that does not allow the introduction of a new outdoor use, right? And one of the things that we looked at in terms of how that section would be interpreted is, if we were proposing a recreational facility or a swim club, right? But this is not a new outdoor use. This is rather an accessory use to the inn. And in terms of legal precedent, we have cited to the case by the Honorable Martha Luft in Hedges Inn versus Village of East Hampton, in which Justice Luft said that pre-existing non-conforming uses are entitled to their accessory uses. So with respect to the variances that we seek here, it is a lot coverage variance. It is the minimum amount necessary. We have removed several terrace patios that were non-conforming and were areas of congregation very close to Mr. Morgan and Mr. Feigenbaum's pre-existing non-conforming garage that they have on their property that's 1 foot from the property line, and I believe it may have an apartment, right? So I think that in some ways we've addressed something that is legally pre-existing and has the potential to generate noise, right? It's got a seating area. That will be gone. With respect to the visibility of Main Street, this board actually asked us to dial back some of our landscaping to preserve that open view because the physical location of the pool is set back enough that it will not be visible from Main Street, and it won't be visible from Hunting Lane either because the building shields it. And all of that is in keeping with the Main Street and the Hunting Lane Historic District design guidelines, which allow historic structures to have modern amenities. The village has never found that, adding a modern amenity like a swimming pool to a historic structure takes away from its historic qualities or attributes, and that's in the village's design guidelines. And Bob Hefner has told this board or the design review board over and over again that throughout the years. To address some of the comments that were made about the windows, that received a certificate of appropriateness from the design review board.
That has nothing to do with us, though.
I know, I did want to address it.
That's not our.
And, I won't beat a dead horse. I've gone through the variance standards with you several times. But I did just want to sort of address the fact that we are only seeking a lot coverage variance at this point.
Thank you. Billy, can you tell us the next steps here, please?
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. Billy Hajak for the village. If the board has determined that you have all the materials that you need or all the information that you need to make a decision, the next step would for the board to, it is still it's still an unlisted action in accordance with SECRA. The applicant has submitted the EAF Part 1. The board would have to prepare an EAF Part 2 and make a SECRA declaration in connection with the decision or determination. So I could prepare a draft for the board for the next meeting or at your will, whichever you prefer.
Board members?
I think that's good. Is it appropriate to close the public hearing at this point?
I think we have to. Do we keep
do we have to do the SECRA?
Do we do the SECRA first, or?
Well, you would adopt the SECRA determination as part of your decision.
So we leave the
typically
hearing.
That's
so we leave the hearing open
yeah,
until.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would it be possible to ask that gentleman, I forget your name, question?
Matthew,
I'm just curious when
you got to come to the podium, please.
Sorry.
Just state your name again, just so Gary.
Matthew Grinnell.
So I live on Main Street myself. I live at the Garden Property 127.
Okay.
And of course, like all of us, we've been to the inn many times, always with good memories. It was very run down, and we all know the condition. I'm curious, the interactions that you're having with this owner in the police department, what was the nature?
No, sorry, to date, I've had no interaction with.
So what you're referring to?
That was all at the Maidstone Arms.
Maidstone Arms.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
Okay, I'm so because I
just giving some context to my experience with new owners at an inn and just.
So nothing to do with them?
No.
Okay, and
I'd never met them before.
Okay, and now that you've moved back, which is very nice to have somebody who's so involved as you've moved back here, are you near the inn or are you?
Yeah, 35 Hunting Lane.
Oh, you're on 35, so you moved
down
back
the street.
to?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and again, we chose to be close, although not immediately.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll leave the hearing open. Billy, you'll do a draft sequa? Okay. We have some, we're going to go into executive session for some legal pending matters. Make motion to close what?
Motion to go into.
To go.
Okay, so I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
all on videotape.
All right, you guys are currently muted. Let me know when you're ready.
We're just in executive session. No business was conducted. So do we make a motion to close the executive session?
No.
Okay.
Close the hearing.
All right, so I make a motion to close today's hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a nice weekend. Happy Mother's Day.